Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Good morning. The third plenary meeting of the Second International Migration Review Forum is called to order. The forum will continue with its consideration and 5 minutes for statements on behalf of a group of states. Longer versions of statements can be made available under the statements of the United Nations Journal. To assist delegations in managing their time, a timer will be projected on the screen. Time limits will be strictly enforced, including through the use of automatic microphone cutoff when the allotted time has expired. Thank you for your cooperation. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Luxembourg, followed by Pakistan and Rwanda. Luxembourg.
Time when talk regarding migration is increasingly polarized. This second review forum on international migration is coming at an excellent time. It provides on progress made in the implementation of the Global Compact. It was my honor to facilitate intergovernmental negotiations on this for the second time, this time with my colleague and friend, Ambassador Ekitela Lokale, permanent representative principles, whilst committing to strengthening and speeding up its implementation. Luxembourg is firmly committed to safe, orderly and regular migration at the national level, at the European level and at the international level. Luxembourg is first and foremost a country acceptable. Luxembourg's migration policies seek to create a system based on solidarity and responsibility, secure external borders, and rapid and effective procedures, and the integration of migration in international partnerships. We reaffirm our commitment to guarantee that migrants fully enjoy all of their rights and fundamental freedoms, irrespective of their migration status, so that they can live a life in dignity and safety. Luxembourg welcomes the action of the UN network on migration coordinated effectively by the IOM. Only collective action based on close cooperation between countries of origin, transit, and destination will enable us to ensure safe, orderly, and regular migration, whilst respecting and fully protecting the dignity and rights of all migrants, with particular attention paid to the rights of women and the rights of children. Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank all member states for their support for the declaration this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed.
I thank the distinguished representative of Luxembourg. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Pakistan.
Migration is a transformative force that has shaped societies throughout history, serving as a powerful engine of development for both the countries of origin and destination. The President, as a major country of origin, transit, and destination, Pakistan brings unique experience and perspective to the dialogue on the multifaceted dimensions of human mobility. Pakistani diaspora are currently the sixth largest globally, and around 8.8 million compatriots living abroad are a vital asset for both their host countries and their homeland. Our skilled professionals and labor force drive economic growth in Middle East, Europe, and North America. The remittances they send home, now exceeding 30 billion annually, provide sustenance for millions, supporting local development, social welfare, and poverty alleviation. Effective migration governance entails robust capacity building at all levels. To maximize the development impact of migration, Pakistan calls for first, intensified global cooperation to reduce transaction costs, promote digital financial. Second, for the protection of migrant workers, we advocate a comprehensive approach that safeguards the rights of workers throughout the entire migration cycle. This necessitates strengthening national legal frameworks, enforcing ethical recruitment practices, and ensuring equal treatment and decent working conditions for all. And finally, we need to address the alarming rise of Islamophobia, xenophobia, and harmful narratives that stigmatize migrants. Expanding regular migration pathways is the most effective strategy to reduce irregular migration, movement, and vulnerabilities associated with them. We emphasize the creation of more accessible legal channels, bilateral. Mr. President, Pakistan remains committed to working with the international community to ensure a world where migration is a choice, not a necessity, and where every migrant can live with dignity and harmony. I thank you so much.
I thank the distinguished representative of Pakistan. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Rwanda.
the General Assembly for convening this important forum. We also commend the permanent representatives of Kenya and Luxembourg for their able leadership in co-facilitating the Progress Declaration. Rwanda considers migration as a structural reality that, when well governed, contributes to economic growth, skills development, and sustainable development. This perspective guides our national approach, grounded in cooperation, evidence-based policy, for transformation, supported by institutional reforms, modernized systems, and strengthened coordination. As a GCM champion country, Rwanda is advancing its national implementation plan and contributing to practical cooperation and peer learning. We view the compact as an operational framework that must deliver measurable results. Rwanda has made progress in expanding regular migration pathways, including through skills mobility partnerships, while promoting ethical recruitment, diaspora engagement, and inclusive access to essential services. Excellencies, Rwanda remains committed to international solidarity. We host over 140,000 refugees and asylum seekers and continue to support initiatives that preserve human capital, including education opportunities for Afghan girls and Sudanese medical students. Further, in partnership with the International Organization for Migration and the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Rwanda has received nearly 3,000 vulnerable migrants evacuated from Libya through the emergency transit mechanism, demonstrating that responsibility sharing can deliver concrete outcomes. Rwanda reaffirms its unwavering commitment to advancing safe, orderly, and regular migration, and stands ready to work with all partners to ensure migration remains a force for good. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Rwanda. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Cape Verde.
Mr. President, Excellency District Delegates, Cape Verde aligns itself with the statement delivered by Nigeria on behalf of the African Group and commends the IOM and the United Nations Network on Migration for convening this important forum. Migration is not a merely contemporary reality for Cape Verde. It's part of who we are. Our history, our identity, our development have always been shaped by movement. We are simultaneously a country of origin, transit, and destination. We therefore understand both sides of migration, the aspiration, the sacrifice, the opportunities, but also the vulnerabilities and the responsibility that migration entails. Mr. President, since the adoption of the Global Compact, WIDO has worked to strengthen a human-centered and rights-based approach to migration governance. In May 2024, Cape Verde adopted the Third Action Plan for Immigration 2023-2025, aligned with the Global Compact and the SDGs. The plan seeks to strengthen policy coherence, improve regular migration pathways, promote social and labor integration of migrants, and reinforce institutional coordination on migrant governance. Our efforts have also focused on improving regularization mechanisms and access to service. In 2022, an extraordinary regularization regime enabled approximately 72% of resident migrants to regularize their status, contributing to great inclusion, legal security, and access to opportunities. Excellencies, at the same time, challenges remain. Like many small island developing states, Cape Verde faces limitations in financial, technical, and human resources that affect implementation capacities. Strengthening data systems, expanding institutional capacities, and ensuring sustainable integration policies remain priorities in our country. We therefore reaffirm the importance of international cooperation, solidarity, and support for capacity building in order to ensure effective implementation of the Global Compact at all levels. Mr. President, at a time when migration is increasingly discussed through polarized narratives, Cape Verde believes it is essential to reaffirm a simple principle. Migration, when governed in safe, orderly, and regular manner, can be a force for development, dignity, and shared prosperity. Cape Verde remains fully committed to implementation of the Global Compact and to working with partners towards more human, balanced, and cooperative migration governance. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Cape Verde. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Mongolia.
President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Mongolia reaffirms its strong commitment to the effective implementation of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. We welcome the draft progress declaration, which reflects both achievements made and challenges that remain. Mongolia has also submitted its 2026 Global Compact Migration Review in line with our commitment to transparent reporting and evidence-based policymaking. Migration is a global reality that requires collective, practical, and forward-looking responses. For Mongolia, mobility is closely linked to national development. International migration, particularly rural to urban movement, has become a defining feature of our development trajectory, with nearly half of our population living in Ulaanbaatar. We view mobility not only as a challenge, but also as an opportunity for adaptation and development. When supported by sound governance, investment, and planning, human mobility can help redistribute labor skills, knowledge, and contribute to balanced development. In this regard, we emphasize the need to integrate mobility-sensitive planning into development policies, including urbanization, decentralization, social protection, and climate strategies. We also underline the importance of strengthening rural livelihoods, improving resilience, and developing reliable data and governance system. In 2026, Mongolia will host the 70th session of the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification in Ulaanbaatar under the theme Restoring Land and Restoring Hope. This will provide an important opportunity to advance discussion on the links between land degradation, climate resilience, development planning, and human mobility. We continue to strengthen migration governance through a whole of government and whole of society approach. We have improved our legal and institutional frameworks, enhanced our cooperation on border management, labor mobility, and consular services, digitalized national registration services, introduced e-visa systems, and expanded our consular protection for our nationals in abroad. At the same time, challenges remain: root causes of migration, limited regular pathways, trafficking in persons, smuggling of migrants, and vulnerability of women and children require stronger international cooperation. Mongolia therefore supports the efforts to expand the safe and regular migration pathway, uphold the human rights and dignity of all migrants, improve information sharing, capacity building, address misinformation, and ensure that more emerging technologies, including AI, are used responsibly in migration policy and practice. And I thank you very much.
I thank the distinguished representative of Mongolia. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Japan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Japan welcomes the convening of the second International Migration Review Forum and expresses its appreciation to the co-facilitators, Kenya and Luxembourg. We also thank IOM for organizing the forum as coordinator of the UN Migration Network. Since the last review forum in 2022, the global migration landscape has continued to evolve amid increasing complexity. In this context, the importance of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration has become even more evident. Its objectives, including addressing the structural drivers of migration, saving lives, and strengthening global partnerships, remain highly relevant. Japan places human security as one of the core pillars of its foreign policy. The GCM, by encouraging international cooperation to promote safe, orderly, and regular migration, embodies the idea of a society that leaves no one behind. Japan remains committed to this principle, particularly through the human security approach. In this spirit, Japan actively supports international efforts to implement the GCM. For example, under Objective 23, Japan contributed more than $200 million between 2023 and 2025 to support IOM activities assisting vulnerable migrants, internally displaced persons, returnees, and affected communities. To prevent and eradicate trafficking in persons, Japan continues to implement various programs in cooperation with JICA and international partners, including UNFA, IOM, UNODC, and UN Women, with a focus on ASEAN countries. These efforts include capacity building and awareness raising at the regional level. In addition, since 2005, Japan has been providing sustained financial contributions through IOM for the repatriation and reintegration of trafficking victims identified in Japan, including support for employment, vocational training, legal aid, medical care, and counseling. Japan also supports UNODC projects aimed at strengthening responses to migrant smuggling across borders in the Indo-Pacific region and Africa, including efforts to enhance maritime law enforcement against illicit activities at sea. These contributions reflect Japan's firm commitment to the objectives of the GCM. Japan will continue to cooperate with the international community to address migration-related challenges and advance the implementation of the GCM. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Japan. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Czechia.
Mr. President, Excellencies, allow me at the outset to recall that the Czech Republic is not a signatory to the Global Compact for Migration and did not participate in the negotiations of the renewed Progress Declaration. That said, we recognize that migration is a genuinely global phenomenon that no country can manage alone. Effective responses therefore require close coordination among countries of origin, transit, and destination, as well as international organizations. Migration, and in particular combating illegal migration, remains a priority for our government. We therefore welcome the opportunity to engage in today's multilateral exchange. As a member state of the European Union, the Czech Republic upholds high standards of human rights protection and fully complies with its international obligations relating to migration. In working with partners, we focus on preventing illegal migration closer to its source by addressing its root causes, improving protection and sustainable solutions for displacement, and facilitating returns. As we work towards comprehensive responses to migration, we must also recognize that the challenges we face, including organized criminal networks that exploit illegal migration, endanger lives, and profit from human misery. Greater attention should also be paid to countering the threat posed by the instrumentalization of migration, as well as to developing new innovative solutions for migration management. The Czech Republic stands ready to contribute to building a fairer and more sustainable asylum and migration system based on three key pillars. First, we must prevent illegal migration as close as possible to regions of origin by addressing its root causes, strengthening local protection, improving migration management, and investing in innovative solutions. Second, we need strong, strategic, and comprehensive partnerships along the entire migratory route, based on effective whole-of-route cooperation grounded in a data-driven approach. Last but not least, we must ensure a functioning returns policy that enables the swift return of those who do not qualify for international protection, while allowing us to focus more effectively on those who genuinely need it. In this spirit, the Czech Republic reaffirms its full support for multilateralism and for practical, viable solutions to global migration challenges grounded in pragmatism, shared responsibility, and respect for international law. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Czechia. Now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Burkina Faso.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, Burkina Faso aligns itself with the statement made by Nigeria on behalf of the African Group. My delegation wishes to point to a number of achievements by our government in terms of the management of migration issues. President, Burkina Faso is a country of emigration. Around 40% of its nationals live outside of its borders. We are also a country, however, of transit and destination for many migrants from Africa. As a result, the government has always placed the issue of migrants at the heart of its priorities. Burkina Faso has made significant progress in terms of migration policy since the first International Migration Forum held in 2022. This progress has translated into the adoption of many legal and regulatory texts aiming to manage migration movements. In 2024, we adopted a law regarding conditions for entry and residence for foreigners and the exit of nationals and foreigners from our national territory. We also have the Family Code adopted in 2025, which renders more flexible conditions for integration of non-nationals and provides for an interim stage that then leads to permanent residency. The Burkina Faso government has taken the decision to issue a pan-African visa allowing free entry to its territory of all African nationals that have an African passport. Over the last 10 years, these actions have allowed the integration within our society of hundreds of migrants that enjoy the same rights and protection and labor conditions as nationals. President, in order to harness the benefits of migration, my country has undertaken several reforms, namely the implementation of a High Council of the Burkina Faso nationals abroad. We've also had the adoption of our national strategy for the management of the diaspora in 2025, and we have a process of rereading our national migration strategy to better tailor it to our national context and the dynamics of the global compact. We're also currently finalizing strategies for labor management, labor migration, and border management. We're aiming to make it easier for migrants to establish passports, and that also applies to the diaspora. President, to conclude, I wish to pay tribute to the exceptional resilience of our people despite a security context, which means that we're facing a new migration profile. We are aiming to ensure safe, orderly, regular migration, which respects human dignity and brings with it added value. This philosophy has been illustrated by the active participation of our diaspora in national development through their contributions to government initiatives, programs and projects. We recommend a renewed partnership between all entities, state and non-state, that are committed to the implementation of the Global Compact. The microphone has been cut off.
I thank the distinguished representative of Burkina Faso. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Marshall Islands.
Mr. President, Excellencies, the Republic of the Marshall Islands is facing stark and unprecedented challenges. In the past 15 years, we have lost 20% of our population to outmigration, causing economic and social upheaval. Too often, our remittances flow the wrong way, where already scarce income from home supports immigrant communities. All of our population lives in low-lying coastal areas, and we have no higher ground. And urbanization, nuclear testing, displacement, and cultural loss are producing high internal migration challenges within our borders. Our government is shaping our first national migration policy, built around not only our priorities, but also to incorporate and address key pillars of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. As a small island developing state, we are seeking island-tailored policy interventions across all key pillars in addressing collective and wider international progress and hurdles, it is important to ensure that no one and no island is left behind. Stemming our great population lost will require priority actions to build stronger economic, employment, and social service delivery at home and working abroad with our diaspora communities to strengthen cultural connection and help build a path back to contributing to national progress. These adverse drivers of outmigration are creating a national crisis, and the population drain is on the verge of a national crisis. And so it is important to directly acknowledge this. The Marshallese are leaving. We are actively addressing recommendations to build a one-stop center to ensure migration closely informed on expectations and opportunities. To better address our host migrant communities, as well as growing internal displacement and migration in our population, our migration policy recommendations are built around and to ensure equal treatment, ensuring human rights and access to necessary social services. Achieving these challenging goals will require further policy elevations, key political commitments, and close support for our island-scale strategies from partners and the international.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Marshall Islands. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Chile.
Señor Presidente,
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegate. Over the last decade, Chile has experienced a transformation in its migratory dynamics. It's become a country of destination. This new reality has brought with it new opportunities, but also significant challenges. Against that backdrop, our country reaffirms its commitment to safe, orderly, and regular migration, components which, together with border control and national security, are enshrined both in our national migration policy and in our foreign policy. Chile recognizes the importance of the guidelines enshrined in Global Compact on Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. These must be considered in the light of national realities. There must be a strike between the legitimate right of a state to govern the entry and residence of foreigners in their country, as well as national sovereignty, border security, and the protection of migrants. President, in light of the above, Chile reaffirms regular pathways for migration and staying in the country must come with necessary mechanisms to ensure that people that intend to reside on our national territory submit their applications from abroad digitally, and that's what we have in place. We have migration status, and that can change, and these are things that allow us to manage migratory flows. All of these must not be confused with international standards to protect migrants and humanitarian standards. Our migration policy is the cornerstone of our work to ensure safe, orderly, and regular migration. There is a demand that migrants be regularized. It's not an obstacle, but a tool to minimize vulnerabilities that often face migrant persons. And that then contributes to efforts to curb human trafficking, organized criminal gangs, and the smuggling of persons. The reality of migrations and ensuring that they are protected is important. They must be allowed to integrate through the proper provision of services, they must get paid work, have labor rights, and they must be allowed to hone skills, belong to relevant associations, and so forth. Chile hopes that what we do on migration ensures that we comply with legislation of countries of destination. We can make available our updated information in a timely way so that you can see what we're doing regarding the rights, duties, requirements for stay, entry, and exit of foreign people. These people are people whose lives we improve on a daily basis. Thank you.
The distinguished representative of Chile. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Lao People's Democratic Republic.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the Lao PDR reaffirms its strong commitment to the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration and to a multilateral system that delivers for all countries, particularly developing and least developed countries. Migration is a driver of development, but it also reflects persistent global inequalities. The benefits of migration must not be undermined by unsafe pathways, unfair recruitment practices, and insufficient protection of migrant workers. In this regard, this year, the Lao PDR submitted its first voluntary national review under the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration as a contribution to collective learning and to further strengthening international cooperation among member states. Since 2023, the Lao PDR has strengthened its migration governance through a whole-of-government approach, enhanced coordination mechanism, and closer engagement with international partners. At the regional level, we work closely with ASEAN member states to implement ASEAN agreements and decisions relating to migration, including advancing the Vientiane Declaration on skills mobility to promote fair recruitment, skills recognition, and greater protection for migrant workers. On the ways forward, first, combating trafficking in persons remains national, regional, and global imperative. Therefore, stronger enforcement, victim protection, and cross-border cooperation are very essential. Second, international cooperation must be strengthened. Migration cannot be managed in isolation. We call for expanded regular pathways, fair and ethical recruitment, and greater responsibility sharing between countries of origin, transit, and destination. Third, we must address structural constraints, limited capacity, gaps in data, and insufficient resources continue to hinder effective implementation of the Global Compact. Developing countries require predictable support, including technical assistance and capacity building. And fourth, migration must be integrated into development strategies by ensuring that migration contributes to resilience, inclusive growth, and sustainable development. In conclusion, we call for renewed political will to fully implement the Global Compact. Commitment must be translated into concrete actions and must deliver tangible results for migrants and countries in need. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Lao People's Democratic Republic. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sri Lanka.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Sri Lanka aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the Group of 77 and China. We welcome this International Migration Review Forum as an opportunity to review progress in the implementation of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. Sri Lanka is pleased to address this forum as a recently designated Global Compact for Migration champion country. This recognition reflects our commitment to implementation and advancing migration governance. Sri Lanka has taken necessary steps for the implementation, follow-up, and review of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. Recognizing evolving migration dynamics and Sri Lanka's status as a GCM champion country, the government decided to revisit the National Implementation Plan, revive the National GCM Implementation Committee, and further advance implementation with the support of the IOM. Sri Lanka has also taken significant steps to strengthen its migration data ecosystem. For Sri Lanka, migration is central to our development progress. Remittances support millions of families and strengthen economic resilience. At the same time, the protection of our migrant workers and dignity remains essential. A key milestone in strengthening the policy environment of Sri Lanka
is the launch of the National Strategic Action Plan to monitor and combat human trafficking on 28 January 2026. The government is also advancing a new legislative framework through the proposed Sri Lanka Foreign Employment Act to strengthen migration governance and protection across the migration cycle. We also have in place a code of conduct to address unfair recruitment practices. Sri Lanka has also recorded progress in advancing implementation, strengthened anti-trafficking responses, enhanced remigration support for returnee migrant workers, and expanded safe migration pathways. The implementation of the Global Compact must acknowledge the realities facing developing countries. We must manage complex migration dynamics with limited resources. IOM Sri Lanka has provided Sri Lanka assistance in the fields of readmission and integration, combating human trafficking, creating safe migration policies and broader risk assessment, etc. Mr. President, Sri Lanka remains committed to strengthening national frameworks, advancing regional cooperation, and supporting effective implementation of the Global Compact. We look forward to continued partnership with all member states in addressing migration matters.
I thank the distinguished representative of Sri Lanka. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Greece.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we thank the co-facilitators, Kenya and Luxembourg, for their transparent and inclusive stewardship of this process, and we appreciate the constructive engagement of all delegations. Greece considers the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration an important non-binding framework for international cooperation, promoting dialogue and coordination among countries of origin, transit, and destination. A credible migration system requires effective cooperation among countries of origin, transit, and destination. In this context, Greece attaches particular importance to returns and readmission policies, which are essential for the sustainability and credibility of migration management. Preventing migrant smuggling remains a central priority for Greece. Addressing this challenge requires a robust border management, strengthened international cooperation, and comprehensive approaches that tackle root causes while fully respecting human dignity. Greece's border management policy is firmly grounded in the protection of human life. We continue to stress the importance of close bilateral, regional, and international cooperation, including the obligation of states under international law to readmit their own nationals. Greece supports enhanced operational cooperation along migration routes and comprehensive partnerships based on a whole-of-route approach. We remain equally committed to promoting safe, orderly, and regular migration, including through expanding legal pathways, facilitating dignified returns, and supporting sustainable reintegration. Greece has strengthened cooperation with countries of origin through innovative migration and mobility partnerships, while also enhancing efforts to combat trafficking and smuggling networks and support voluntary returns. We also remain fully committed to the protection of migrant children, ensuring that all relevant measures are guided by the best interests of the child. In conclusion, Mr. President, Greece reaffirms its commitment to a comprehensive, balanced, and cooperative approach to migration management. We remain committed to working with all partners to advance practical and sustainable solutions that enhance the effectiveness, credibility, and resilience of migration governments. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Greece. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Cambodia.
Mr. President, distinguished delegate, Cambodia reaffirms its strong commitment to the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration (GCM), while prioritizing Objective 1, 11, and 23, Cambodia remains fully committed to the comprehensive implementation of the compact. Guided by the National Implementation Plan 2024-2026, Cambodia continues to advance a whole-of-government and whole-of-society approach to migration governance. In this regard, I wish to highlight 3 key areas. First, Cambodia is expanding regular migration pathway through strengthened bilateral labor agreements, enhanced cooperation with destination countries, and improved labor protections. We are investing in skills development, strengthening legal identity system, including universal health, universal birth registration, and ensuring migrants have access to accurate information to make informed decisions. Second, Cambodia prioritized the return and reintegration of migrants while strengthening the link between migration and national development planning. During last year's border conflicts, Cambodia worked closely with partners to support more than 900,000 returning migrants, focusing on livelihood, socio-economic reintegration, access to health services, and continued education for children. Third, Cambodia remains firmly committed to preventing and combating trafficking in persons, including emerging forms of exploitation linked to online scam operations, which are targeting vulnerable migrants. Cambodia rejects any attempt to use such issues as a pretext for territorial violations or aggressions. We have intensified whole-of-government efforts and recently adopted a law on combating online scams to address evolving transnational organized crime. Mr. President, Cambodia will continue to strengthen regional and international cooperation, promote victim-centered approaches, and ensure protection and assistance for all survivors. We remain committed to translating the GCM into tangible benefits for migrants and societies. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Cambodia. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Myanmar.
Mr. President, migration should be a choice and not force. For Myanmar, traditionally migration contributed positively to the development of our country. However, the illegal military coup in 2021 violently reversed this trend, shifting migration from an economic opportunity to a desperate fight for survival. GCM objective to calls on us to minimize the advice drivers of forced migrations. Through relentless, thorough, documented war crimes and crimes against humanity, the military junta is the fundamental root cause of our mass displacement. Here, I wish to share the experience of my own family. Because of my standing with the people of Myanmar against the military coup and military dictatorship, in 2021, my parents, my siblings, and their children were forced to leave the country. There were so many people, including elderly, women and girls and youth, left the country for avoiding the military junta's atrocities. I cannot miss to mention that desperation is also measured in lives lost at sea, with 2025 marking the deadliest year on record for Rohingya refugees fleeing persecution. Against this backdrop, while thanking the host countries, I wish to appeal for more effective international support. They all want to go back to Myanmar as soon as possible. During the time of elected government in 2016 to 2020, many Myanmar diaspora, especially young people, returned and contributed to the development of the country. After the coup, they have to leave the country again. To enable them to return home safely and sustainably, we need to address the root cause. We need to end the military dictatorship and the culture of impunity in Myanmar. Moreover, Myanmar is also destinations of human trafficking. The military juntas facilitated the creation of safe haven for transnational crimes, including online scams in Myanmar. Many young people across the world became the victims of the online scam. I wish to ask the international community to seriously address this issue in a holistic and coherent manner. In conclusion, only by dismantling the military dictatorship and the culture of impunity and building a federal democratic union can we find a sustainable solution for the crisis, granting the safe, voluntary, and dignified return of all our people, and allowing the people of Myanmar to finally stop fleeing and rebuild their lives in contribution of the sustainable global peace and security. The National Unity Government and the major ethnic democratic forces are working together through the Steering Council for emergence of a further democratic union in this regard. Therefore, I ask the international community to support the people of Myanmar in.
I thank the distinguished representative of Myanmar. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Timor-Leste.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. For Timor-Leste, migration is closely connected to the aspirations of our people for education, employment, family reunification, and improved livelihoods. It remains an integral part of our social and economic fabric. In addition to the outward migration of Timorese, our country also hosts migrants, communities, and workers. We recognize both the opportunities and challenges associated with migration. In response, Timor-Leste continues to strengthen migration governance by improving institutional coordination, enhancing labor mobility cooperation with several regional partners, strengthening border management systems through close collaboration with IOM, and implementing measures to combat trafficking in persons and migrant smuggling. We also continue to improve migration data and evidence-based policymaking through national census analysis and migration profiles initiatives. At the same time, we remain mindful of the protection concerns and vulnerabilities that migrants may face, including exploitation, abuse, and unsafe migration pathways. This reinforces the importance of ensuring safe, orderly, and regular migration for all. Mr. President, allow me to conclude by highlighting 3 areas where enhanced cooperation can deliver tangible progress. First, continued efforts to ensure migrants' rights, safety, and dignity are protected at all stages of migration, including through access to justice and essential services. Second, strengthen labor mobility schemes supported by skills development, fair recruitment practices, and mutual recognition of qualification can generate shared benefits for both countries of origins and destinations alike. Third, stronger partnership, data sharing, and technical support are essential to enable the effective implementation of the Global Compact, particularly for countries with constrained means. The Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration provides a solid framework for dialogue and cooperation. Its success depends on sustained engagement, trust, and collective action. Timor-Leste reaffirms its commitment to constructive cooperation that ensures migration continues to contribute positively to migrants, their families, and our societies as a whole. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Timor-Leste. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia.
In the name of God, the most merciful and gracious, Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my country, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, affirms its commitment to the purposes of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. This is based on our firm conviction that the management of regular migration cannot be effective without genuine international partnership. This partnership must respect the sovereignty of states and the specificity of their national priorities. In this context, my country has submitted its first national voluntary report, which reflects a systemic institutional approach to following up on the progress made in the implementation of the objectives of the agreement. This was done with participation from government agencies and civil society institutions. Mr. President, over the past years, my country has witnessed tangible transformations in the labor market in the context of Saudi Vision 2030. The vision aimed to achieve a practical balance between market efficiency and the protection of rights. Most prominent among these steps was the launch of the Contractual Relationship Improvement Initiative, which has enhanced the flexibility of expat workers' mobility and enhanced protection mechanisms. This has also enabled them to manage their career path with greater clarity and transparency. In parallel, the Kingdom has expanded its digitization of services through integrated online platforms such as Kuwa, Musanid, and Abshir. These platforms facilitated the documentation of contracts, enhanced transparency, and contributed to providing accurate and comprehensive data to support evidence-based policymaking. My country has also worked to develop its legislative framework to promote equal opportunities and reduce discrimination, with particular focus on providing a safe and decent work environment. We also gave attention to expanding access to basic services, including healthcare, education, and social protection. My country has also paid special attention to promoting fair recruitment practices and combating forced labor through policies and legislation aimed at protecting workers and ensuring a safe and equitable work environment for all. Mr. President, the Kingdom views regular migration as a real opportunity if well managed. Regular migration is an element that supports development. As the Secretary General's report mentioned, it is not merely a challenge to be contained. In this context, the report highlights that the effective management of regular migration enhances its contribution to supporting the economies of host countries.
I thank the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Norway.
Chair, distinguished colleagues, let me start by expressing our deep appreciation for the inclusive and transparent process that characterized the negotiations on the Progress Declaration facilitated by Luxembourg and Kenya. Migration has increasingly become a divisive issue, both nationally and internationally. At the same time, many migrants, especially women and children, face marginalization and exploitation. Moreover, many people die or go missing while migrating along dangerous routes. This is unacceptable. We therefore need an informed debate and approaches to migration management considering the interest of both individual migrants and the member states concerned. Chair, in this regard, multilateral exchange and cooperation are key. The stocktake we are now considering provides an excellent basis for defining new strategies and work plans to achieve our joint objectives under the Global Compact. Norway takes part in this migration forum with two main priorities. First, to improve migration management and to stem irregular migration. And secondly, to reduce vulnerability and to attend to the needs for migrants in precarious situations. While there is no quick fix to either of the two, we do believe the route-based approach provides a meaningful framework. Countries of origin, transit, and destination need to cooperate much more closely. We need to shift the narrative towards a grand bargain. Funding, technical capacity, and political will must all come together in new ways to address the multiple challenges posed along the migratory routes. People who are considering migrating should be well informed about available legal pathways, as well as about the risks associated with irregular migration. This is why we support initiatives such as the local migrant resource centers in countries of origin and transit. Moreover, when migrants arrive in Norway, we invest significantly to ensure social and economic inclusion. We also have policies in place to combat work-related crime, social dumping, and discrimination. In concluding, we call on all states to continue advancing their implementation of the Global Compact in a balanced and effective manner. I thank you, Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of Norway. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Togo.
Monsieur le Président.
President, ladies and gentlemen, the delegation of Togo fully aligns itself with the statement made on behalf of the African Group. We convey our gratitude for the convening of this second forum. We also welcome the UN system's efforts to promote global governance of migration that is based on cooperation, solidarity, and respect for human rights. Togo reaffirms its commitment to the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. It is an essential framework to increase coherence of our migration policy and to benefit from the good practice of other states. President, since 2018, Togo has embarked upon a process whereby it is gradually and in a structured way implementing the Global Compact. Significant legal reforms have been established. We've strengthened coordination mechanisms. We have modernized integrated migration issues into national strategic frameworks, and all of that bears witness to our desire to plan things consistently. We've also strengthened the protection of migrants, particularly women, children, and victims of human trafficking. This thanks to rendering operational the National Commission to Combat Human Trafficking, as well as prefecture level commissions. On an operational level, our country continues to modernize border management and is working to mitigate vulnerabilities, namely through employment programs, by mobilizing its diaspora. We have created the High Council for the Togolese abroad and the diaspora service window. After that, the government published its guide for the Togolese abroad, and we've launched a digital register safe, orderly, and regular migration. We intend to bolster migratory governance and make it integrated and inclusive. We intend to increase protection mechanisms and step up work to raise awareness of safe migration.
Chair. Migration, I'd like to make 4 points. First, strengthening international cooperation. This means practicing true multilateralism, reinforcing the coordinating role of the IOM in global migration affairs and working in synergy and unity to effectively implement the objectives of the GCM, thereby promoting shared responsibility, joint problem solving, and mutual benefits. Second, addressing protecting the rights and interests of migrants. This requires us to oppose all forms of stigma, racial discrimination against migrants, approach them with greater openness, inclusiveness, and fairness, promote their integration into society, unlock their productivity dividends, and ensure they become both contributors to and beneficiaries of sustainable development. Fourth, harnessing innovative technology. It's important to tap into the new wave of technological revolution to make migration services more people-centered, convenient, and accessible, bridge the digital divide in migration governance, and ensure all countries can equitably benefit from the outcomes of smart migration enabled by technology dividends. Chair, China highly values migration issues and has earnestly implemented the recommendations of the GCM. We remain committed to advancing high-level opening up, implementing more open and convenient migration policies, and continuously expanding international cooperation in areas such as combating transnational crime and irregular migration governance to contribute to the China wisdom and China plan to better global migration governance. President Xi Jinping has put forward the Global Governance Initiative, or GGI for short, charting the providing China wisdom and China plan to improving global migration governance. China stands ready to work with all parties to effectively implement the Global Governance Initiative and actively advance dialogue and cooperation on global migration issues. Event and jointly deliberating on major issues concerning migration governance. I thank you, Chair.
The distinguished representative of China.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, my delegation welcomes this forum that enables us to evaluate the implementation of the Global Compact on Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration and its contribution to Agenda 2030 to achieve sustainable development. Côte d'Ivoire welcomes the ongoing efforts to strengthen global governance of migration based on the principle of cooperation, solidarity, and the respect for human rights. Nonetheless, we note with concern that our humanity is increasingly confronted with numerous threats that are as complex as they are diverse. The various current economic and structural crises are sorely testing the implementation of actions to speed up implementation of the GCM. Inter alia, strengthening the framework for migration governance through increasing the role of the National Office for Population in coordination and monitoring, strengthening the institutional framework by establishing the Directorate of Aid and Assistance to Refugees and Stateless Persons and the National Committee to Combat Trafficking in Persons, and the participation of migrants in the national process for identification of 2021, with almost 6.5 million foreign nationals, in other words, 22% of the total population. Given this, my country has consolidated its international partnerships in order strengthening interoperability of information systems, producing and managing migration data through innovative tools and techniques, and making borders secure and sharing information between states. In conclusion, my delegation reiterates its unfailing commitment to the financing and technology transfer. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Cote d'Ivoire. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sudan.
Review Forum. Mr. President, migration is a human phenomenon that should be viewed from a broader perspective and dealt in a comprehensive and people-centered approach. It is equally crucial to address the root causes of migration and enhance international cooperation, especially in the field of technical support and capacity building. Other priorities areas pertaining to migration are combating smuggling, human trafficking, on the national level. We have experienced this reality as a result of the war of aggression against the people of Sudan, which caused huge damage and mass displacement, placing additional burden on the implementation of our policies. The rebellious militia of the Rapid services without discrimination to all, including immigrants, in line with international conventions. Our national laws also criminalize incitement to violence and hate speech, in conclusion, Mr. President, Sudan remains committed to making progress on the implementation of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration, to sustain engagement with stakeholders, including international Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of Sudan. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Thailand.
Mr. President, Thailand allied itself with the statement by the GCM champion countries. Last year, we were honored to host the second Asia-Pacific regional review of the implementation of the GCM. Thailand remains firmly committed to GCM implementation. Do allow me to highlight progress in three key areas. First, on enhancing availability of regular pathways, apart from MOUs on level cooperation with neighboring countries, Thailand has a regularization scheme for migrant workers to reduce vulnerabilities, enable access to basic services, and enhance protection. In 2025, over 1 million migrant workers benefit from this policy. Second, on alternatives to detention of migrant children, Thailand has reviewed its SOP under the MOU on ATD to improve referral procedures and case management. We are also working with stakeholders to revitalize community-based ATD to better support the rights and well-being of migrant children, in line with our pledges at the first International Migration Review Forum and second Global Refugee Forum. And third, on misinformation and misperception. Since 2023, Thailand has been working with the IOM and CSOs to promote evidence-based migration discourse and media reporting to encourage balanced public perception of migrants' contribution to society. Mr. President, I am pleased to announce that this year, Thailand pledges to strengthen trafficking in person responses in the context of international migration by promoting a transnational referral mechanism using victim-centered whole-of-government and whole-of-society approaches. Building on our national referral mechanism, Thailand aims to enhance systematic cross-border protection for migrant victims through bilateral, sub-regional, and regional cooperation. This pledge underscores our unwavering commitment to combating human trafficking and protecting victims, particularly those trafficked for forced criminality in scam centers in Southeast Asia. To conclude, Thailand, as GCM champion country, will continue to lead by example. We underscore the importance of international cooperation to enable migrants to contribute positively to the societies in which they live. Let us work together towards the goal of safe, orderly, and regular migration for the benefit of all. Thank you so much.
I thank the distinguished representative of Thailand. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Turkey.
Mr. President, Excellencies, situated at the crossroads of major migration routes, Turkey is well acquainted with the realities of human mobility. Turkey has consistently underlined the importance of addressing the root causes as part of effective and humanitarian migration management. Unfortunately, we face the most serious displacement crisis while the burden and responsibility continue with the origin and transit countries already under huge migratory pressures. In this context, we were expecting to see a stronger emphasis in the progress declaration on the concerns regarding externalization and responsibility shifting, as well as on establishing fair burden sharing as the viable approach in the long term to tackle the migration issue. By reiterating this understanding, we look forward to the continuation of a constructive and solution-oriented approach with the guidance of the Secretary General. Turkey's experience as a frontline state for over a decade has demonstrated that international solidarity and equitable burden sharing are indispensable for fair and effective global migration governance system. Turkey currently hosts around 2.3 million Syrian refugees under temporary protection, with the vast majority of the burden shouldered through national capabilities. In line with the GCM goals, significant progress has been made in combating smuggling and trafficking networks, advancing data-driven migration governance, expanding training programs, promoting alternatives to detention, and digitalizing services. As a result of these efforts, migration management in Turkey has become more effective, the skills of migrants and refugees have been enhanced, harmonization and reintegration processes have improved in both host and countries of origin. As a champion country and one of the world's largest refugee hosting countries, we call on all member states to work towards the GCM objectives, strengthen global cooperation, and adapt a holistic approach to migration. In conclusion, it is a pleasure to take part in this review forum. We thank the UN Migration Network for its efforts in supporting member states. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished representative of Turkey. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Poland.
Chair, let me start by underscoring the main premises on which Poland engages in the IMRF. We are not a party to the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration, and we reiterate that this is a non-legally binding comparative framework. Nevertheless, we closely follow its implementation and the discussions surrounding it, given their implications for international migration governance and regional stability. As we are nearing the end of this IMRF process, let me be clear that my country recognizes that the final text of the Progress Declaration contains a number of elements that are important for Poland, including a clear reaffirmation of non-legally binding nature of the Global Compact and the sovereignty of the states, language confirming that states may distinguish between regular and irregular migration status within their jurisdiction, and references to the obligation of states to readmit their own nationals and to strengthen cooperation on return, readmission, and sustainable reintegration. Poland fully recognizes that all migrants, regardless of their status, are human rights holders. We support efforts to strengthen access to basic services for migrants, to improve identification and referral mechanisms for migrants and vulnerable situations, and to develop non-custodial alternatives to detention, especially for children. At the same time, we must clearly state that the Progress Declaration does not fully reflect key concerns that Poland has constantly raised throughout the process. In particular, we deeply regret that the declaration contains no reference is essential for an honest assessment of current challenges and for designing adequate responses that are both human rights compliant and security sensitive. The second major concerns of Poland are non-voluntary returns. We believe that effective and human return and readmission procedures, including where necessary and forced returns carried out in full compliance with international human rights law, are indispensable element of well-governed migration system. Poland will continue to act in line with the UN Charter, international law, and its national legislation. We remain ready to engage constructively in future discussions on migration, especially now, and how to better address its major challenges. We encourage the future IMRFs and international intergovernmental processes to engage more substantively on these issues, drawing on the expertise of affected states. And I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Poland. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Belarus.
Mr. President, distinguished participants of the forum, Belarus considers the forum as a mechanism that makes a significant contribution to strengthening cooperation in the area of safe and orderly migration. This year, Belarus presented its voluntary review on the implementation of the GCM. We believe that there is a need for transparent and constructive cooperation on this issue with not just strategic data and realizable measures, but the future of people at the heart of it. We are seeking to develop our digital infrastructure and strengthen measures to protect the rights of migrants. In 2024, we adopted a migration policy, and this is to a great extent in line with the GCM objectives. Our aim is to ensure that we are focusing on the positive contribution migration can make to stabilize the population level and to contribute to a sustainable labor market. As part of the initiative by Belarus, the General Assembly has adopted various resolutions on improving the coordination of efforts against trafficking in persons. Here, the aim is to ensure that migrants are not exploited. We'd like to also mention the fact that the country network of the UN on migration is a reliable partner for governments by assisting it. We would like to thank the organizers and participants of the forum for their work. We have to note that the forum is for discussion and finding ways to overcome shared problems based on cooperation. And some of the paths taken by some European countries should not be represented in the principles and rules of civilized discussion. The rhetoric used by these states is not appropriate. But the aim of such statements is very clear. Rather than, as well as finding an external enemy, also they want to draw attention to other people's mistakes and deflect attention from their own. So we are just hearing lots of slogans, and this means that there might not be enough time left for other states to discuss their own positions. We categorically reject any accusations against Belarus. We'd like to say that Belarus customs guards are beaten up sometimes, and there are very serious consequences. We have seen that there have been killing of people on the border with Belarus and the EU. And the EU is supposed to be committed to the GCM. But we, however, are completely committed to it and committed to working in partnership with all. Thank you.
Representative of Belarus. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Eritrea.
Abbreviated version of Eritrea's statement and the full text will be duly transmitted. At the onset, I commend the co-facilitators, Kenya and Luxembourg, for their efforts Migration must be understood within the broader context of peace and development. While countries of origin bear responsibility for creating conditions in which their citizens can thrive, we must also confront the structural drivers of migration. These include global inequalities, external interventions, and stoking of regional instability, illegal unilateral coercive measures, and distortive asylum frameworks. Addressing these root causes is essential to any sustainable solution. Eritrea views migration as a complex global phenomenon requiring strengthened international cooperation. Efforts to address irregular migration must prioritize human dignity while respecting national sovereignty and development priorities. We remain concerned by the continued depletion of human capital from African countries, including Eritrea, driven in part by misleading narratives that incentivize outward migration. Too many migrants fall victim to traffickers and criminal networks, which have grown into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. The international community must take stronger, coordinated action to dismantle these networks, including through enhanced cross-border cooperation and independent investigative mechanisms. At the same time, the rights of migrants must be fully protected. Regardless of their status, they're entitled to fundamental human rights, including protection from exploitation and access to basic services and justice. They should be able to participate meaningfully in the social and economic life of host communities. On the issue of return, Eritrea supports voluntary repatriation conducted in full respect of international law and human dignity. We remain concerned by unsafe and non-voluntary return practices, particularly those that shift responsibility through third country arrangements. Such measures undermine international law and must be rejected. We also emphasize that migrants have the right to practice their culture in destination countries, including organizing and celebrating national and cultural events. Furthermore, they must be able to maintain ties with their countries of.
I thank the distinguished representative of Eritrea. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Belgium.
Excellencies, migration is a global reality that must be addressed collectively to harness its full potential and to respond to its challenges. In this regard, Belgium attaches importance to the GCM as a framework for dialogue, cooperation, and review on migration at the international level. The relevance of the GCM lies in its role as a shared and legally non-binding reference framework that allows states to share best practices, assess progress, identify gaps, and reinforce cooperation while fully respecting national competences. With the adoption of the GCM, Belgium implements its objectives in line with national priorities, and pursues a controlled and humane migration policy based on two complementary pillars. First, we invest in preventing irregular migration, combating migrant smuggling and trafficking, and ensuring effective return and sustainable reintegration for those who have no legal right to stay. Second, we promote legal migration under clearly defined conditions, taking into account labor market needs and integration capacity. A comprehensive migration policy must balance rights and responsibilities of states and migrants and be embedded in a whole-of-government approach. In this context, Belgium places a strong emphasis on international cooperation, notably with countries of origin and transit, based on shared responsibilities and a whole-of-route perspective. Cooperation on return, including non-voluntary return and readmission, remains a key element of a credible migration governance. At the same time, Belgium is a reliable partner through development cooperation, skills and talent mobility, and addressing the root causes of long-term irregular migration. The facilitation of remittances and the support of the role of the diaspora in stimulating economic progress in both sending and receiving countries remain key priorities for Belgium. Across all these policies, Belgium remains committed to ensuring that migration is governed in full respect of international law, including human rights law, with particular attention to vulnerable persons and children. While Belgium considers that the Progress Declaration at the current IMRF doesn't strike the right balance between the various elements of a sound migration management, our country remains engaged in a GCM framework and in international cooperation on migration, guided by policies that are fair, orderly, and humane, and contribute to sustainable and well-managed migration governance. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Belgium. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. For decades, the Islamic Republic of Iran is hosting millions of refugees from neighboring countries. Despite heavy burden on economic, social, and environmental infrastructure, the Islamic Republic of Iran has continued to provide essential service to refugees, displaced persons, and foreign nationals across multiple sectors, including education, health treatment, social welfare, and livelihood support in full respect of human dignity. However, unilateral coercive measures imposed by the government of the United States and the adherence or even over-compliance of some other countries with those measures have seriously affected the health treatment and livelihood conditions of immigrants, in addition to Iranian nationals, particularly people in vulnerable situations. As highlighted by each and every speaker in this forum, addressing the needs of migrants is a collective and international responsibility. Humanitarian issues, including the question of migration, must not be politicized or held hostage to political considerations. We also note with concern the sharp reduction in donor funding into Iran in 2026 and call for increased international support to sustain humanitarian assistance and service delivery. In this regard, we stress the importance of adequate, predictable, and non-politicized burden sharing. Moreover, in recent months, my country has been subject to an imposed war by the United States and Israeli regime, resulting in the martyrdom and injury of numerous innocent civilians, including students, children, and women. The attack also claimed the lives and wounded a number of migrants and foreign nationals and caused damage to their residential homes. In addition, educational, health, and livelihood infrastructure used by refugees, displaced persons, and foreign nationals in Iran was also damaged during the recent aggression. However, Iran has continued extending its support to migrants in the country. Iran implemented a regularization scheme for the presence of foreign nationals in 2025, in line with the objectives of the Global Compact for Migration and our National Migration Governance Framework. We further emphasize that the international community must assume its responsibilities regarding the social and economic development of Afghanistan. Those who contributed to displacement, overdevelopment, insecurity, and instability in Afghanistan cannot evade accountability. Regional and extra-regional cooperation to address the root cause of displacement is therefore essential. Finally, we underline that safe and orderly migration cannot be achieved without access to modern border management equipment, which must be provided to all countries without discrimination, including Iran. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of France.
To French life. A third of our population has at least a grandparent from abroad. Almost 2 million French people live abroad. At the same time, more than 5 million foreign people live on our territory. In nature, and that they reconcile respect for human dignity and state sovereignty. The global context, marked by an increase in the number and intensity of armed conflicts, as well as by economic and climate crisis, means that we must fully rallied to ensure the full implementation of the Global Compact on safe, orderly and regular migration. That is a human development tool, and it is a tool for peace in and of itself. We've done all of this by supporting people working on the ground, civil society, diaspora and private sector stakeholders. As we move towards the Africa Forward Summit to be held in Nairobi in a few days, we are convinced that this partnership-based approach will guarantee the sustainability of our response to the root causes of irregular migration and other constraints. Our strategy links migration and the multi-partner forum for migration to extend assistance to those most vulnerable throughout the world, from Ukraine to Tunisia and Syria. Since 2022, more than 70 million euros have been disbursed to supporting voluntary return, integration, humanitarian aid for displaced persons, and reducing vulnerability. Regionally, as part of our presidency of the rule of law. That strategy is based on two pillars: better integration and protection of foreigners. The prevention of irregular migration is the second pillar. As you've seen, it's through unwavering dialogue that we can provide sustained and balanced response.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellencies, friends, allow me to thank the UN for convening the second International Migration Review Forum. Croatia welcomes the progress made in strengthening international cooperation, advancing the implementation of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration, and developing more comprehensive Croatia remains firmly committed to safe, orderly, and regular migration, while addressing irregular migration and related security challenges along key migratory routes towards Europe. This requires stronger international cooperation and coordinated responses among countries of origin, transit, and destination along the entire migration route. Croatia highly values its strategic partnership with the UN and its agencies on all aspects of migration and mobility, including humanitarian coordination and mutual respect, while avoiding fragmentation and duplication of efforts. We must also recognize that countries face migration flows from different geographical, economic, and social perspectives. Croatia, for example, respecting the right to seek asylum. In protecting both its national and EU external borders, Croatia remains fully committed to international human rights standards, including the principle of non-refoulement that Croatia supports stronger cooperation across UN agencies, including UNHCR and IOM, with greater involvement of regional and local actors. We also support efforts to promote legal pathways as part of a comprehensive and human rights-based approach to migration. To conclude,
Croatia. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Zimbabwe.
Dignity, work, and hope. The responsibility before us is to make that movement safe, orderly, and regular, while protecting migrants supported by national policies on migration, labor, and tourism. The forthcoming national diaspora policy recognizes the diaspora as a strategic partner in national development. Government is also strengthening the legal and institutional frameworks, reforms to laws on migration, citizenship, refugees, and displaced persons are responding to evolving migration realities. These reforms have supported counter-smuggling, counter-trafficking structures, and financing mechanisms, enabling Zimbabwe to dismantle trafficking networks, prosecute perpetrators, and facilitate the safe return and reintegration of affected nationals. Zimbabwe's approach is evidence-based, supported by migration data in censuses and surveys, stronger civil society registration systems, and a national alongside advanced passenger information and passenger name record systems. Mobile registration initiatives are helping to secure legal identity for all and prevent statelessness. Protection and human dignity remain central. Zimbabwe immigration violations are not criminalized. Madam President, regionally and internationally, Zimbabwe is promoting safe and regular pathways through labor migration and mobility agreements. We also recognize that root causes must be addressed through macroeconomic stability, infrastructure development, climate resilience, digitalization, and job creation, especially for the youth. Zimbabwe reaffirms its commitment to the
Now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Lebanon.
Mr. Chair, I will read a short understanding. Today, migration remains a global daunting challenge. Lebanon firmly believes that we should all commit to ensure safe, orderly, and regular migration. Our failure to do so would entail cascading negative impacts rather than allowing to harness the many benefits of migration. In this spirit, Lebanon joined the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration in 2018 in Marrakesh, a milestone that remains as relevant to In addition, the government has taken concrete steps to implement it. Tangible progress has been made in this arena, such as collection of data and evidence-based policy making by integrating migrant households into multi-sector needs assessments, cooperation with key countries of origin to strengthen regular labor migration frameworks, drawing on relevant international standards, identification and protection of victims of trafficking by adopting priorities. This includes recognizing the positive contributions of migrants, including remittances and human capacity building. Mr. Chair, as Lebanon continues to face today a humanitarian crisis caused by the conflict escalation that resulted in the displacement of over 1.2 million people, migrants have been included in government-led emergency response frameworks, demonstrating my country's continued commitment to ensuring access to assistance for all in a fair and a dignified manner. IOM Director General Ms. Pope commended the government leadership in coordinating the response despite immense pressures, as Lebanon once again calls for increased international support in this arena. Mr. Chair, finally, Lebanon underscores the importance of strengthening international cooperation driver of sustainable development for all. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of Lebanon. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of South Africa.
Chairperson, South Africa is honored to participate
in this second International Migration Review Forum and aligns itself with a statement delivered by Nigeria on behalf of the African Group. This forum is convened at a moment of profound global uncertainty, with high levels of displacement, complex migration dynamics, and growing pressures on the multilateral system. Addressing the root causes of migration and forced displacement is critical, guided by the principle that migration should be a choice and not a necessity. We reaffirm our commitment to the full and effective implementation of the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. Chairperson, our Constitution is the basis for implementing the Global Compact, espousing the values of human dignity, equality, non-discrimination, and human rights for all, while fully respecting state sovereignty and territorial integrity. Since 2022, South Africa has strengthened for migrant children, irrespective of migration status. Despite the challenges, we continue to promote social cohesion and local integration, recognizing that inclusion enhances safety, stability, Cabinet has approved the revised white paper on citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection. Cabinet has also approved the National Labor Migration Policy effective migration governance must be evidence-based. Despite progress, persistent challenges related to mixed and irregular migration, resource constraints, socio-economic inequalities remain. This underscores the importance
I thank the distinguished representative of South Africa. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Kazakhstan.
Mr. President, the Republic of Kazakhstan values its cooperation with the International Organization for Migration and reaffirms its commitment to the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration based on the principles of partnership, human rights, and shared responsibility. Kazakhstan ranks among the world's top 20 destination countries for migrants. Categories for skilled professionals, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, and investors. Taking into account global migration trends, Kazakhstan is currently developing its migration policy concept through 2030. This document will serve as a key strategic framework for the further development of the country migration governance system. Overall, concept outlines 56 specific measures across 3 key priority areas. The first priority is the creation of unified digital migration monitoring portal with integration into government databases. Currently, this platform already provides flexible quota system based on a sector and occupation approaches, as well as the introduction of special conditions for strategic investment projects. The third priority is the development of a safe migration pathways, the strengthening of migrant rights protection, and the expansion of international cooperation. In 2024, Kazakhstan adopted a law on combating human trafficking and continues to strengthen the protection of migrants and refugees' rights in line with international obligations. Kazakhstan is a participant of the Almaty process on refugee protection and international migration. During our chairmanship, the Almaty process meetings of participating states were held and coordinated position on key migration policy priorities was developed. We also see strong potential in the United Nations Regional Center for the Sustainable Development Goals in Central Asia and Afghanistan in Almaty as a platform for advancing joint solutions in the areas of migration and development. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that Kazakhstan stands ready
Sayyid Rais.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are meeting today at a time when the situation is United Nations mission in 2025, we've now moved to the fight in which we're fighting against, well, we were fighting against terrorism, and now we're in a phase of stability and development. And on the basis of new cooperation with the United Nations for development, sustainable development, that's a 2025 to 2029 partnership. And on that basis, we are today working on economic and social development. We manage migration. In 2025, we launched the first plan for safe, orderly, and regular migration 2025-2026. We did that together with the IOM. This strategy is comprehensive. It demonstrates that we've moved from opportunities and to protect human dignity. Excellencies, in spite of the progress made, it is significant. Challenges are still complex. Iraq is located in a troubled region, and we are facing a regional security situation which is complex. We play an internationally leading role in terms of managing the most complex migration crises. Our citizens are returning from camps in Syria, including the Hall camp, and they're returning in a safe and orderly fashion. At the same time, there are migration factors which are negative in nature. There's to look at what's going on with our citizens, and we're taking effective measures to protect working migrants. They are part of our economy, and we help them through cutting-edge legislation to increase their social security. President, we have made tangible commitments to implement the Global Compact for safe, orderly and regular migration, and we emphasize work on the issue of climate change. The microphone has been cut off.
I thank the distinguished representative of Iraq. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ethiopia.
Mr. Chair, my delegation aligns itself with the statement delivered by Nigeria on behalf of the Africa Group and by Azerbaijan on behalf of GCM champion countries. We thank the President of the General Assembly for convening this forum and the Secretary General for the report. Also, we commend the co-facilitators of the Progress Declaration, His Excellency Mr. Erastus Lakole, of human mobility in the Eastern Horn of Africa. Ethiopia recognizes the migration is a complex reality shaped by development gains, demographic dynamics, and evolving global economic conditions. Addressing migration effectively, therefore, demonstrating an unwavering commitment to responsible and inclusive migration management aligned with the SDGs. Ethiopia has embarked on extensive policy, legal and institutional reforms since 2022, including the development of national migration policy and the establishment of integrated migration data systems. The creation of the Deputy Prime Minister-led National Council on Migration exemplifies our whole of government and the society approach to migration governance, thereby ensuring coordinated and inclusive action. Ethiopia prioritized legal identity, safe migration pathways, and the protection of migrants' rights through legislative reforms, digital identification systems, and expanded consular and reintegration services. Nonetheless, international cooperation framework. We believe that dignified return and the sustainable reintegration must remain central principles of migration governance, ensuring that returning migrants are made not with further vulnerability, but with opportunity to rebuild their lives with dignity and stability. Looking ahead, we believe that national commitment is critically important to build on the gains of the implementation.
I thank the distinguished representative of Ethiopia. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Suriname.
Mr. Chair, Suriname welcomes the convening of this forum, which allows us to reflect on our shared commitments, challenges, and lessons learned under the Global Compact for Migration. $650,000 citizens with a relatively large number of migrants, around 7%, a figure that reflects our historical diversity, openness, and inclusiveness as a country. The government continues to provide services to those in other socio-economic and security matters, including facilitating optimal use of the development potential of labor migration while saving perspective that Suriname has developed a comprehensive national migration policy plan 2024-2030 with technical support from the IOM. The policy plan is grounded in a baseline assessment of our migration situation and aligned with the Global Compact for Migration. Mr. Chair, with Suriname's emerging oil and gas industry, we are convinced that regulated and orderly migration can make a positive contribution International migration is a dynamic process that should foster growth, progress, empowerment, and prosperity while creating a safe environment for citizens and migrants. In closing, Suriname remains committed to continue forging partnerships to ensure an integrated approach to facilitate safe, orderly, and regular migration, and to take joint action to address the challenges through mobilizing sustainable and innovative resources. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Suriname. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the United Kingdom.
And thank you to the International Organization for Migration for bringing us here together today. People have long moved to work, study, reunite with family, or flee persecution. And for helping us to address these shared challenges. It is built on a fundamental principle. Cooperation must respect the sovereign right of states to determine their migration policies and control their borders in line with international law. For the United Kingdom, this forum is an opportunity to drive the traffickers, and organized immigration crime. 3, strengthen cooperation on returns and reintegration. And 4, build better data and analysis so to offer asylum to those who need it, while targeting the criminal gangs that exploit people and enable dangerous journeys. We're acting upstream, investing in conflict prevention, climate resilience, jobs, and governance reform to give people real choices and reduce pressures to move irregularly. Where people do move, it should be safer and more orderly. Stronger protection along routes, better information, and practical support for countries managing mobility. We are therefore working with partners on targeted interventions in key countries of origin and transit to strengthen local services and reduce incentives for irregular journeys. We are also turning compact commitments into action. As a leading donor and active steering committee member of the Migration Multi-Partner Trust Fund. Reduce the drivers of irregular migration and build systems that
Thank the distinguished representative of the United Kingdom. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Nepal.
Mr. Chairs, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it's a GCM champion country and a major labor standing nation. Nepal remains committed to advancing safe, orderly, and regular migration through international cooperation. Nearly 4 million Nepali migrant workers contribute significantly to destination countries, while sustaining livelihoods at home through remittance, through skills, knowledge, legal and institutional reforms to promote safe, orderly, and regular migrations, and better protect the rights and welfare of our migrant workers. Key reforms include promoting ethical recruitment, safer migration pathways, stronger protections, and gender-responsive approach. Digitalizing recruitment systems, strengthening welfare mechanisms by the Social Security Fund and Foreign Employment Welfare Fund. Nepal has signed bilateral labor agreements with 13 recipient countries so far. Mr. Chair, despite these reforms at home, challenges remain, including irregular migrations, deceptive recruitment practices, human trafficking, labor exploitations, discriminations, and face disproportionate challenges, including abuse and exploitations, data gaps, limited information sharing, and insufficient coordinations among the countries of origin, transit, and destinations further constraints effective migration governance. Nepal therefore calls for strengthened international cooperations, greater solidarity, and renewed political commitment for the effective implementation of the GCM and the relevant international instrument. We underscore the importance of ethical recruitment, decent work, gender-responsive protections, demand-driven skill development, mutual recognition, state part.
I thank the distinguished representative of Nepal. I now give the floor to the observer of the League of the Arab States.
Amid increasing complexities in the migration landscape and its interlinked drivers. The landscape is marred by ongoing armed conflicts and worsening economic crises, as well as the accelerating impacts of the changes in patterns of human mobility and growing pressures on host countries. These factors have collectively emphasized the importance of moving from regional and international approaches that focus solely on managing migration flows, particularly involuntary flows, towards more comprehensive strategies that address the root causes while simultaneously developing practical tools to ensure migration is safe, orderly, and regular in a manner that enhances its contribution to sustainable development and reduces its risks. The Arab region represents a complex model of migration as it simultaneously constitutes a region of origin, transit, and destination, reflecting the diversity of migration patterns and drivers. In light of ongoing conflicts, economic and social crises, and the increasing impacts of climate change, Arab states bear growing burdens in hosting refugees and migrants. This calls for strengthening international support for Arab countries and activating fair and equitable burden and responsibility sharing mechanisms in a manner that ensures the sustainability of host countries' capacities to absorb migrants. Migration issues in our region cannot be separated from their broader political context. The Palestinian cause remains the most prominent example of long-term forced migration. Continued Israeli occupation and its military illegitimate practices that amount to genocide, particularly in Gaza, have also been leading directly to forced internal migration. The League of Arab States reaffirms its categorical rejection of all attempts to forcibly displace Palestinians or effect demographic change in the occupied Palestinian territories. Similarly, the absence of peaceful settlements in Yemen, Sudan, Libya, and other Arab countries continues to constitute a key driver of migration flows, thereby underscoring the need for to facilitate remittances and reduce their cost. We emphasize the importance of strengthening regional coordination, and we have held regular consultations to deal with this important matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
We thank the
Today, more than 300 million people live outside their country of birth. The absolute number of migrants has tripled since 1970. Driven by conflict, climate change, and economic necessity, migration is reshaping societies and political systems worldwide. As International Ideas Global State of Democracy report shows, representation, rights, rule of law, and participation, the four pillars of democracy, are weak cohesion, and they weaken trust in institutions, corroding democracy from within. They also undermine progress toward the 2030 agenda, which relies on inclusive and cohesive societies for its achievement. The UN Charter affirms the equal rights and dignity of all, and Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights guarantees the right of everyone to participate in the government of their country. But our systems have not kept pace with reality. Our research shows that across the world, migrants and refugees are routinely excluded from political participation, denied voting rights in host countries, and often unable to exercise them in their countries of origin. As many as 53 countries do not allow their citizens to vote from abroad, and for those that do, legal barriers are often compounded by administrative obstacles that render participation inaccessible in practice. In Asia, for example, our research shows recent elections have included innovations such as postal and online voting for migrant workers, but millions of migrant workers still remain effectively disenfranchised, as electoral systems often exclude highly mobile populations from participating in the democratic process. The case of Ukraine illustrates the stakes concretely. With more than 6 million people displaced by Russia's aggression,
ensuring that Ukrainians abroad can participate in future elections, inclusive out-of-country voting arrangements for future Ukrainian post-war elections. International IDEA calls on this assembly to act on 3 priorities. 1, countries of origin should, where feasible, facilitate accessible out-of-country voting for their citizens. 2, host countries should consider broader measures to support the democratic participation of long-term residents in line with national law and international good practice. And 3, political actors must end the
I thank observer of the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Systems. I now give the floor to the observer of the International Criminal Police Organization.
حضرة الرئيس، حضرات المندوبين الكرام، الهجرة الدولية.
Mr. President, esteemed attendees, international migration is an undeniable reality of our interconnected world, offering both opportunities and challenges. Today, migration dynamics are being reshaped by global conflicts, restrictive migration policies, rapid technological advancements, and environmental degradation. Unfortunately, these developments are matched by an upsurge in criminal opportunities, particularly by organized crime groups preying on vulnerable populations. As the world's largest global police organization, Interpol stands at the forefront of combating migrant smuggling and human trafficking. Our secure communication channels facilitate real-time information sharing, a matter crucial for locating missing persons, tracking suspects, and disrupting criminal networks. Our databases, accessed millions of times monthly, are instrumental tools for detecting fraudulent documents and Three, a 2-week effort, led to the arrest of 3,744 suspects, over 1,800 of whom were involved in human trafficking and migrant smuggling. This operation also safeguarded over 4,400 potential trafficking victims and identified nearly 13,000 irregular migrants across 119 countries. The same year, the cyber The task force Shadow Storm is being currently established to continue combating trafficking linked to online cyber scam operations. Through collaboration with strategic partners, we are developing long-term solutions to confront cyber-enabled human trafficking on a global scale. This includes the use of AI. Excellencies, as we convene dedicated to supporting our member countries in protecting vulnerable populations, ensuring migration is safe, orderly, and secure, and defending the dignity, safety, and well-being of survivors worldwide. Thank you.
I thank observer of the International Criminal Police Organization. I now give the floor to the observer of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies.
Mr. Chair, on World's Red Cross and Red Crescent Day, it is an honor to address the International Migration Review Forum on behalf of the commitment in advancing the objectives of the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. Yet, we must also be honest, for far too many migrants, the situation has only worsened. The distance between the commitment migrants have died or gone missing along the world's migration routes. These deaths are unacceptable and they are preventable. The UN Secretary General recommendation routes. The IMRF Progress Declaration, to be considered shortly, commits member states to operationalize the recommendations and places clear emphasis on route-based cooperation. The only true measure of success will be implementation and the number of lives saved. Mr. Chair, a migrant's journey does not begin in Lampedusa, the Sahara Desert, or Andaman Sea. People's needs begin in communities of origin where disaster, climate, conflict, and economic hardship erode the conditions for people to remain safely and with dignity. Along routes, migrants endure exploitation, violence, and separation from family. Its 191 national societies and the ICRC. This week, we have gone a step further and have launched the IFRC's Global Migration and Displacement Platform. The platform connects our network present in nearly every country, strengthening resilience in communities of not do this alone, and we do not act alone. Alongside government partners and migrants themselves, the IFRC is dedicated to helping turn your commitment into action.
Of the International Center for Migration Policy Development.
Development. In times of global uncertainty, the International Migration Review Forum sends an encouraging signal. It reflects a strong commitment by member states, international organizations, framework. A holistic approach requires strengthened efforts to prevent irregular migration by addressing at underlying drivers, tackling migrant smuggling networks, and effectively combat trafficking in human beings. Support of developing legal pathways for migration and expand vocational training and skills development. Not only for reducing the potential for irregular movements, but even more importantly, for directly benefiting people. It supports both aspiring migrants and those who wish to build their futures in their home countries. The human dimension must remain the central guiding principle. Within this framework, a rule build on already established partnerships, and draw on region-specific expertise. To achieve this, we need systematic investment in national migration management capacities so that all countries along migration routes can genuinely take ownership, act effectively, and uphold human rights and a people-centered approach. Allow me to assure you that ICMPD remains fully committed to work with our member states and partner countries and continue serving as a reliable partner in this process and in the further implementation of the aims of the Global Compact. Thank you.
I thank the observer of the International Center for Migration Policy Development. I now give the floor to the observer of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development.
Mr. President, Excellencies and distinguished delegates, I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of His Excellency Dr. Warkana Gabayo, the Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD. For the IGAD region, migration is a matter of political responsibility, regional stability, and shared prosperity. It directly affects peace, migration realities daily. In this spirit, IGAD reaffirms the importance of the Nairobi Declaration as a clear expression of political will. It affirms that the future of migration governance must remain firmly in the hands of IGAD member states. The commitment has also translated into action through the key regional achievement that IGAD Protocol on Free Movement of Persons and the Protocol on Transhumanity. These instruments are of historical significance. They give practical meaning to integration, provide a framework for lawful mobility, strengthen cross-border resilience, and demonstrate leadership and responsibility. The signing by our member states reflects a strong political will and a shared determination to advance integration through orderly and cooperative approaches. Our member states have also taken concrete national measures, advancing migration policies and action plans, strengthening coordination, expanding labor migration arrangements, and improving data systems, and introducing digital tools for mobility governance. This progress reflects ownership and leadership. At the same time, challenges persist. Conflict, trafficking in person, irregular movements, weak protection in some corridors, and the growing impact of climate change. For us, climate-related mobility is a present reality. The IGAD framework allows coordinated response, including through provisions such as Article 16 of the Protocol on Free Movement of Persons, addressing disaster displacement and strengthening resilience. The message from IGAD is clear. Regional ownership must remain the foundation of migration governance. Commitment must be accelerated through ratification, domestication, and implementation. And international cooperation must reinforce, not bypass regional priorities. IGAD remains committed in advancing safe, orderly, and regular migration grounded in the priorities of.
I thank the observer of Intergovernmental Authority on Development. We have heard the last The forum will meet this afternoon at 3 p.m. in this hall to continue with its remaining of program of work, and this meeting is adjourned.